I think the reality of being president is that you're actually like the captain of a very huge ship and have a small rudder. Obviously, if a president could make the economy great, and there was like a button they could press, they'd be pressing that button at the speed of light. The government just is not good at running things. That's the main thing.
Do you feel the government is standing in the way of innovation at all?
Well, sometimes the government, I don't think the government intends to stand in the way of innovation, but sometimes it can overregulate industries to the point where innovation becomes very difficult. In the auto industry used to be a great hotbed of innovation at the beginning of the 20th century, but now there's so many regulations that are intended to protect consumers. The body of regulation for cars could fill, this room. It's just crazy how much regulation there is, down to what the headlamps are supposed to be like, and they even specify some of the elements of the user interface on the dashboard, and some of these are completely anachronistic.
So you feel you can argue with these regulations, you just have to...
Well, you can argue with them, but not with great success. And you can actually get these things changed, but it takes ages. One of the things we're trying to get is why should you have side mirrors if you can have, say, little video cameras, tiny video cameras, and have them display an image inside the car? But there are all these regulations saying you have to have side mirrors. And I went and met with the Secretary of Transport, can you change this regulation? Still, nothing has happened. That was 2 years ago. I think I'm just glad that being the U.S. president is like being captain of a large ship with a small rudder. And so there's just a limit to how much good or bad a president can actually do. Obviously, if a president could make the economy great, and there was a button they could press, they'd be pressing that button at the speed of light. They can't. They can't just magically make the economy good. No president wants the economy bad ever. There's just a limit to how much they can do. I guess there is the nuclear thing, which is, I don't think we would just arbitrarily launch nuclear missiles.
Yeah.
One would hope. The president can do that.
I don't think so. Not arbitrarily. I think that
he's the commander-in-chief.
Yeah, no, but I still don't think that means you can just launch nuclear missiles whenever you want.
Yeah.
I think Congress would be quite upset about that, and but I think the military would be we really think Congress should be consulted on it before we launch a.
Yeah.
I'm quite confident that the military would not just, randomly agree with somebody. I think the reality of being president is that you're actually the captain of a very huge ship and have a small rudder. Because obviously, if there was a button that a president could push that said economic prosperity, you'd be they're hitting that button real fast.
Full steam ahead, yeah.
You could measure the speed of light by how fast they press that button. Because that's called the re-election button. So I'm not sure how much the president can really do, but I think I'm generally a fan of minimal government interference in the economy. The government should be kind of the referee, but not the player. And there shouldn't be too many referees. But there is an exception, which is when there's an unpriced externality, such as the CO2 capacity of the oceans and atmosphere. So when you have an unpriced externality, then the normal market mechanisms do not work, and then it's government's role to intervene in a way that's sensible. And the best way to intervene is to assign a proper price to whatever the common good is that's being consumed. So
you're saying there should be a tax on gas?
There should be a tax on carbon. If the bad thing is carbon accumulation in the atmosphere, then there needs to be a tax on that. And then we can that will and then you can get rid of all subsidies and everything else. And it seems logical that you should tax things that are most likely to be bad rather than, like that's why we tax cigarettes and alcohol, because those are probably bad for you. So you want to err on the side of taxing things that are probably bad and not tax things that are good. And so I think, given that there is a need to gather tax for the to pay for the federal government, we should shift the tax burden to bad things, and then adjust that tax of that bad thing according to whatever is going to result in the behavior that we think is beneficial for the future.
The only alternative would be to say, okay, let's give the stock to the government or something, and then the government would be running things, and the government just is not good at running things. That's the main thing. But there's like a fundamental sort of question of like consumption versus capital allocation. This is probably going to get me into trouble, but the paradigm of, say, communism versus capitalism, I think, is fundamentally sort of orthogonal to the reality of actual economics in some ways. So what you actually care about is like the responsiveness of the feedback loops to the maximizing the happiness of the population. And if more resources are controlled by entities that have poor response in their feedback loops, so if it's like a monopoly corporation or a small oligopoly, or in the limit, I would say a monopolistic corporation in the limit is the government. So, this is not to say people who work at the government are bad. If those same people are taken and put in a better sort of operating system situation, the outcome will be much better. So it's really just what is the responsiveness of the organization to maximizing the happiness of the people. And so you want to have a competitive situation where it's truly competitive, where companies aren't gaming the system, and then where the rules are set correctly, and then you need to be on the alert for regulatory capture, where the referees are in fact captured by the players, which is and the players should not control the referees.
So there's a limit to how much harm any given president.
Are you sure about that?
Oh yeah.
So you're not worried about? Are you backing either of the candidates at this point?
Trying to stay out of this situation.
Because?
I don't think that's the finest moment in our democracy.
Well, given that it's not the finest moment in our democracy, do you think the best thing is to stay out? Or
we'll see.
To get in?
I'm not sure what I could do to
head off the worst.
I'm not sure how much influence I could have as one person on the outcome. So, I mean, if I think I could make a difference, I would probably do something.